Welcome, everybody. My name is Joe Ulam. This is Becoming Brokerage. It is the show about real estate professionals. I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, Daniella Schlisser. Daniella Schlisser. And I tried so hard to get that right. This is such
you got close.
Such a hard job.
You were close.
So, thank you. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Sorry for getting your name wrong.
That's okay. Everybody does. And it's not mine. It's my ex-husband's.
Okay. Even better. Second administration
Exactly.
I'm on, so.
Exactly.
Well, welcome. And you have had a fascinating career because you are a top luxury agent with over $1 billion in sales, which in and of itself is a tremendous accomplishment because we know how difficult this industry is.
Thank you.
But you also have had several previous lives that we would like to hear about today, including your time as a journalist, working at Ralph Lauren. You've lived all over the world.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. I'm a first-generation American. My father was Hungarian. My mother is Viennese and has lived in Vienna, continues to live in Vienna her whole life, my whole life. So I was raised between New York and Vienna and finished university, did some grades in Vienna, some in New York, most in New York, then started university in Vienna, then finished it in Paris. And my first job out of college was working as with a special foreign correspondent of the Associated Press, whom I am still in touch with, whom I adore. His name is Mort Rosenblum. He's one of my favorite people to have ever met in life. And I was his right hand. I was, I think, what did they call me? Special assistant to the special foreign correspondent, something like that. And he was wonderful at delegating. So I was all of 22 years old and was allowed to interview people, organize files, get deep in, edit his book with him. It was really wonderful. So that, I would say that job probably gave me, aside from an experience in self-discipline and self-starting, because I didn't punch a clock with him, and I had to get to the office when I thought I should be at the office and stay until the job was done. But I had to impose structure, which is what we do as brokers. So I had a very early kind of training of that. But it was also research-based. So that's been great in brokerage because I think what we do most importantly, I think, is understand value and research value, be it for a buyer or a seller, whether it's for listing or for representing a buyer and making sure they pay what they should and not more. So I had a very early start in that. And then from there, I went to work for Ralph Lauren, which was super fun. I was on the team that opened his Paris store. It was the second, if I'm not mistaken, his second owned store. The other stores were not owned by him exclusively. I think he had, and I could be getting this wrong, but I don't think I am. I think he owned Deauville, which is about an hour and a half outside of Paris. And then he was owning the Paris one that we opened on Rue de la Madeleine, right by the Madeleine. And he selected a team of expat Americans. We had to all speak perfect French, but be American. And we had to look a certain way and dress a certain way and present a certain way. It was super fun. But that taught me sales and marketing because we did everything. That team that started that store, we had really serious weekly sales meetings at 8, and we all did everything. I got sent to Geneva to merchandise the Geneva store. So that was a hard course, not hard as in difficult, but rather, really jump right in lesson in sales and merchandising and packaging. And so it's staging. It was, we rigged mannequins. We rigged ourselves to sell what was in the store. So it's all been able to be pulled into brokerage.
When you walk into a Ralph Lauren store, you notice right away how well it's put together. It's just, you can see the amount of time and effort. And when you stage an apartment, do you draw upon that experience?
Totally, because that is really deliberate. The SWAT team would come in from, corporate and totally rig and very, very deliberately set up everything in the store. The mannequin had to be just like this, and the things that, below the mannequin and whatever. It's all very deliberate. So yes, absolutely.
Everything has a purpose.
Everything, yes. And everything is thoughtful.
It tells a story.
Yeah.
That's great. And he, I believe, started selling ties on the street corner. Is that?
Was it on a street corner? I think he sold to, was it to Bloomington? I don't remember, but it was definitely ties.
It could be.
I don't remember that.
Might be kind of a urban legend, but I know he started and just really pushed. And he started by himself, which I think is really impressive.
You also see, he came a few times to the store. And, it was very interesting to see the wheels turn. Like, you could see the wheels turn. And you could see, and, we all got to watch him, and, that was okay there, but not quite there, over there. And so, that sort of exposure to meticulous presentation is certainly something that I find applicable every day in brokerage. We're packaging.
And I've never been to business school or anything, but I would imagine he is top echelon if you wanted to study someone who has been able to brand his company. His branding is just remarkable.
Agreed.
And you work with a lot of luxury properties, so you have your own brand. So I'm sure there's a lot of
definitely
draw from that.
Definitely.
So when you were working for Mort, what was his field and what were you?
He was very focused. Well, the book that he was writing, which he edited with him, or helped him. He would say, "Sit here." I was a kid, but he was wonderful at validating a kid. Read that through for me. What do you think of this?
Asking your opinion.
It was wonderful. It was called Mission to Civilize, and it was about France. He had a really fun, he lived, and I believe still does, on a boat on the Seine. Some of those boats on the Seine are residences. And he lived on one of the boats on the Seine, and the Associated Press office, was in the same building as Newsweek and whom else? I think the Tribune, the International Herald Tribune, I think they had their offices there as well.
But the offices were not in the boat.
No, they were on the Rue Saint-Honoré. No, not in the boat.
If you get seasick, you're out of luck
if
you have that job.
And then I did research. He would have me, call people to interview them. He did a lot on sub-Saharan African poaching. He was very anti-poaching, and nobody's pro-poaching, but he was very. He did a lot. He wrote a lot of copy on poaching, and had me cold interview people on that. It was a fun job.
That's a great skill to have too.
Yeah.
Just in terms of having to make those phone calls, you're young, you're calling these very prominent people who are very busy. And my first job out of college, I did telemarketing. And I hated it because you have to invade people's privacy. They're having dinner. And there's almost this, I didn't mind if people were rude. I, of course, liked when they were polite. What I hated was when they were indifferent and they would just have this dismissive tone. And I think that's the toughest thing in a way about, we don't really cold call so much as we pursue leads and call them and we get being brushed off is
Totally.
You have a thick skin, but it's sort of like walking into a restaurant. If somebody if they're rude, okay, they're rude. If they're nice, it's great, but just don't ignore me. And that's one of the hills I had to climb.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of research, and our business, there is a lot of presenting to do, a lot of breaking down of numbers. In my opinion, real estate value is very difficult to quantify because a lot of times they base projections and sale prices on small sample sizes. But I'm sure, can you tell us about how your experience in research helped you with pricing and giving presentations?
I think, well, that research was also not really quantifiable. You know, sub-Saharan poaching, I mean, yes, you can assign numbers to how many, you know, elephant tusks were poached in, you know, in 1982, but still, the bigger picture is qualitative, really, more so than quantitative. So I think it is similar insofar as you're addressing a qualitative issue and project, but you do have to support it quantitatively. And I think we do have to do that. You know, we can't just say, I think it's unjustified to tell a client, you know, your apartment is worth $8 million because I said so. Yeah, I don't think we can do that. So I do think that we have to figure out how to take something that we know doesn't fully translate numerically and provide people with an understanding that has some numeric basis so they can feel comfortable and also gives them comfort with the piece that isn't numeric. Because it's going to be, you know, here is your $7 million comp, and here's why you're not actually exactly the same value. Here's what's similar, here's what's different. So I think we have to merge the qualitative and the quantitative regularly.
And that's a big skill because there's a lot of talk nowadays about how Redfin can price your home. You can ask AI, how much is my home worth? And you get a number.
Good luck with that number.
Exactly. And maybe the apartment upstairs sold for $10 million. It's the same size. You want the same price, but your apartment faces a brick wall. The one upstairs has clearance. So I think it's a particular skill to see the apartment and use the data at your disposal, but also your experience and your business acumen, your opinion, really, based on all of your experience as to what the home should price for. So we're going to take a quick break, and after a word from our sponsors, we will be right back.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country, and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity.
Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing.
My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
Welcome back, Daniella. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate and what was it that pushed you in that direction?
Destitution. My ex-husband, with whom I had 3 children, stole all my money, and I did not know that until like one particular day when I discovered it.
Wow.
Because he had pretended to have invested it, but there were no investments. So I pretty much woke up one day and had kids to take care of and no money. So I needed something that could be lucrative, but could also provide me with flexibility of time because I had these 3 young kids to take care of. And this was pretty much all I came up with. And I didn't I didn't hope to like it. I didn't expect to like it, and I loved it right away. And
Wow.
it has provided for, I mean, now my kids are adults, but it did, keep a roof over everyone's head. It put my kids through private school in New York, kept everyone clothed. So it's been very good to us.
I can't even imagine what that day must have been like for you.
It was a rough one.
I'll bet.
A rough one.
And do you look back and are you able to kind of pat yourself on the back a little bit?
Very much so. Yes.
That's great because I think especially being in that situation, going into a job, a career that's brand new and you're going to be self-employed, you're really betting on yourself.
Totally. It's interesting. Totally. That's true. I never even thought about it that way. I did think, or there are many things that I haven't thought about, and then someone says something like you just did that resonate. I was also in a taxi once, and there was some, how they have those like adverts on the screen, and somebody was talking about, keys to success, and that person said, never have a plan B. And I sat there and I thought, I did not have a plan B. That's true.
You were going to do whatever
it was going
takes.
to work. It was going to work.
Yeah.
We were going to be fine. It was going to work. And I'm lucky and I worked hard.
And I think that's a great place to start because the first rejection you get, it doesn't really even come close to stopping you.
No.
Because this is it. This is what you're going to have to do to support yourself and 3 kids. It's not just one kid. I remember I started real estate after my son was born. And I was thinking, I was selling comedy tickets in Times Square at night so I could make enough money on Friday to pay the nanny. And so I was going into the office, doing real estate, and then at night, trying to get the cash because it takes a while to get rolling. So when you started, so you got your license, did you pick a firm or did you know people in the business?
Yes, I knew my father who passed away when I was a month shy of my 17th birthday, and he raised me in New York. When I lived in New York, which was most of my childhood until he died. It was alone with him. He and my mother, who had remained very good friends till he died, had friends who the husband was a big real estate guy. So I called him and I told him what happened, and he had eulogized my father. So he was kind and protective. And he advised me not to go into commercial, but rather residential. Because he said I would need the flexibility which commercial wouldn't provide. And he introduced me to Barbara Corcoran and said I should meet her and work for her. So I did. That's how it worked. And I was at Corcoran for 14 years.
Okay.
No, 13. Sorry, actually it's 13. And then came here.
What was it that brought you here?
I didn't enjoy it as much after Barbara sold. Corcoran had a very different vibe with Barbara than after Barbara. And Pam is wonderful and brilliant and always very kind to me, and I like her very much. But it was corporate. I would get letters every quarter from someone I never met congratulating me on being in the top 1%. And I always actually thought that was kind of annoying that this man, whose name I remember, never got on a plane and met us. Like, come and meet us.
It's very impersonal.
We're pretty much carrying your company.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not the local chapter of...
It's a relationship business. You can at least
meet us.
Make a pretense.
And it was, and I would often ask for things that were not... that were a little out of the box, and the answer was always corporate won't approve that.
Right.
So I didn't want to be corporate anymore.
For someone who won't take no to an answer, that doesn't sound like a good reason.
It was yes.
You're going to have to give me a different reason than corporate
and that was
says
the only
no.
one.
Do you want me to talk to corporate?
Yeah.
That's kind of
yeah.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
And So it always takes a little while in real estate to get rolling. So what were the first few months like?
They were, oh gosh, I would walk my kids to the bus stop at 8 in the morning. The two oldest ones. I was pregnant with my third.
Wow.
And yeah, I would walk them to the bus stop at 8, come straight to the office where I was the only person. I mean, no one is in a real estate office at 8:30 in the morning. I was. And I would stay very often until super late at night. And I was lucky in that my manager at the time, Teresa Hall, who then became the executive vice president of Corcoran, and she's a wonderful woman. I adore her. She recommended me to a broker whom I never met in person. She was never at the office, but she had a big internet, even back then, it was 2001. She had a website where I guess just a website that accumulated inquiries, and she offset the $1 million and below inquiries to me, and I would give her 25%.
So you would get the leads.
Mm-hmm. And I was able pretty quickly to convert one into, I remember it was a 1-bedroom apartment. I brought the buyer at 101 West 81st. The seller was Rich Eisen, the sportscaster.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was my first deal. And then for that person, I then sold an apartment. For the person that bought, I sold their apartment. And then I was super diligent about marketing and mailings and everything. And it just,
You were on your way.
Yeah. The first 6 months, that first 2001, I started in July. I made $19,000 in 2001. And then I made $237,000 in 2002.
It's a pretty good increase.
It was good. And then in 2003, that same Teresa Hall said, you need an assistant. You can't do this alone anymore. You need an assistant. So
what did that feel like? Just 2 or 3 years ago, you woke up one day with 3 kids to support.
Felt great. And there's no shortcut to that.
Yeah.
So now, having adult children and having friends with adult children, where there's a lot of temptation, and we live in New York, so there's a lot of financial ease.
Sure.
A lot of temptation to give. And I just feel really strongly that achieving is so much more satisfying than just receiving. And
Absolutely.
so I really draw from that experience. I mean, I wouldn't have chosen to lose all the money that was stolen from me. I would have liked to still have it. However,
Sure.
I will say that the silver lining, and I think, all of us in this business have this as an accomplishment. It's hard work, and nobody's doing it just for fun, or certainly not just for fun. It's really, really satisfying to accomplish, to earn, to succeed, to build your own, wealth.
It is.
Business.
It's certainly, it's very hard to be grateful when things are just handed to you on a silver platter.
Agreed.
And I think my father was European also. And I think that as an immigrant, he really had this work ethic where I like real estate because you're always working. Even when you're not working, you're kind of working. And it probably, I don't know how healthy that is, but I always feel plugged in somehow and that there's always something I can do. And I think I wouldn't, the hardest job for me is nothing to do. I mean, I could go on vacation and love it and try to get away, but if I'm not busy, I go a little crazy.
Oh, yeah. I don't like it either. The slow times in the market are very uncomfortable.
They're
Agreed.
brutal. They're brutal.
Agreed.
One of the things about being a self-starter, though, is that I'm sure you use that time productively because that's when you're doing your business plan, your marketing. There's always something you can do.
We try. Yes, I try. But it's not comfortable. It's far more comfortable to be frantic.
Right. Right.
super busy and still have to do all that.
Right.
That's somehow, even though, it's an odd way, I guess, of assessing comfort. You're sleeping less, you're eating less, and yet it's more comfortable, I guess, for some of us.
There's something about rushing around New York City, too.
Fabulous.
That's fun when you're really busy and you've got to get from one appointment to the other. And
Agreed.
I was on my way over here from my office. I grabbed the wrong jacket and I got on the subway and I was at 42nd Street and I realized this is not the jacket I'm supposed to be wearing. And I thought, you know what, it'll be okay. Just,
And it is.
And then I ran back and got it, and I'm running, getting on the train, and other people are running to get on the train. And you always wonder where everybody is going.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe for some people it doesn't seem like a healthy way to live, but I like that adrenaline rush.
Me too.
And could you ever see yourself living anywhere other than New York City now?
I
Full
could
time?
see myself. I enjoyed living in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there for about 8 years. It doesn't have that. It's not as frantic as New York,
Right.
but it's a wonderful place to live. But I could not live in a suburb. That I could not do.
Right.
No. And I have also never really understood the argument for them. I couldn't. I'd like green. All right. Backyard. All right. I don't know. What are you doing in that backyard? That's better
weeding.
than what you do at the MoMA. Or
Yeah,
what's better in the back? I never understood. And it looks lovely, and I understand that people are happy. But I don't. That analysis, that backyard one, I understand other arguments better. Family lives here. That one I understand completely.
There are
Mom's
things
down the
that
road that I get, but
give me peace, but gardening is not one of them. Weeding, and then some people say it's relaxing to them.
Yes, I've heard that.
And I'm sitting there stooped over,
heard
grabbing the weeds out. It's not relaxing, but
no.
so you
The
have
Egyptian temple is relaxing.
yeah. So that leads me. I just want to first say that you've combined your people skills. But you also have this background doing a lot of research, learning sales at Ralph Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always been comfortable with people and being around new people, or did you start off kind of shy?
It's funny you ask that. I'm not shy. I've never been shy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not also. I am thought of as much more of a people person than I feel.
Right.
I actually feel solitary, but I am told I'm good with people. And I don't feel uncomfortable with people at all. And I enjoy people. I definitely enjoy people, but I'm very solitary. I can be away by myself. I can be in my Sag Harbor house for a week by myself and notice that I haven't spoken to anyone other than on the phone in 5 days.
And you're okay with that?
Totally.
Well, we're talking to people all day, whether it's on the phone, in person, we're getting on the train, we're going to the deli, we're talking to clients. So when you get home or you have a few days, probably don't feel like going out and doing a ton of, talking to people. It's nice to have that solitary time to detox
I love
a little
being
bit.
alone.
So let's go a little rapid fire here. I'm just going to ask you some questions to get to know you a little bit. What is your favorite restaurant in New York City?
In New York City, probably Island, which is my family's go-to restaurant a block north of our home. I live on 91st in Madison.
Okay.
It's on 92nd in Madison. It's where we have had every birthday, every graduation, every promotion.
That's great.
For 20, well over 20 years.
Wow.
And the staff is pretty much the same. And we adore everyone,
That's
and the
great.
food is great. And
The
I'm a sucker
continuity.
for my regular table, and I don't need change as much as I enjoy. Yeah,
It's nice just to,
Familiarity.
and when you walk in, I bet everyone's happy to see you.
I
You're
sit
happy
down.
to see
They know
everyone.
which wine I like. I don't even have to ask for it. I don't have to ask for my food.
What's your
I love
favorite
that.
dish there?
So they have a fabulous broiled salmon with a maple glaze and Brussels sprouts that also have some kind of a maple thing. And that's my favorite. And if I feel like I shouldn't be eating so rich, even though it's salmon. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
it's
foie
seafood.
gras, it's salmon.
Right.
Then I just ask them to broil it for me.
Nice. Okay. And do you have a place, if let's say you have an hour between appointments and you're somewhere in the city, is there somewhere you like to go just to detox, hang out a little bit?
If I try not to have an empty hour between appointments,
Right.
I try to have that at my desk instead. But if not, I like all the little cafes I do, and I don't mind sometimes I sit at Starbucks with a big matcha latte. I like their spinach and feta egg wrap. So it's not terribly sophisticated. And when it's nice out, I like to sit in the park.
Right. It's
When it's nice out
getting
and I
nice
have time
now.
to kill, I'll buy myself a coffee, a latte, and I'll sit in the park.
Are you more of a film person or a theater person?
I love both. I don't really care for musicals so much. I mean, I loved Rent, I loved Hamilton, but I'm not a
Yeah, I
Cats
prefer
person.
a little. I miss the off
I like
Broadway
dark,
stuff.
twisted stuff.
Oh,
I like dark, twisted
well,
books. I like dark, yeah.
I'm the same way,
Yeah.
so that might be a different podcast, but we'll try. You actually host your own podcast.
I do. It's called Rise and Thrive, and it's not about real estate. It's really about people who have talking to people who have been through something that led them to reinvent themselves, crawl out of a hole.
That's great. And I try to, one of the reasons I started this show is I think there's so many interesting people in real estate who have had these multifaceted careers, and it all builds who they are. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to hear those stories because we're not just empty suits. We've all got a backstory.
Agreed.
And
Yes,
can you
do.
tell us a little bit about where to find you? Or
Sure. I am on Instagram at Daniella Schlisser. Facebook also. Facebook is Daniella Gross Schlisser. Where else am I? I'm on TikTok. And then email, cell, online.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I try to be quickly responsive.
Great. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank
This
you
was
for
really
having me. This was
interesting.
great fun. It was great fun.
I feel like we
Thank
could
you.
keep going. Maybe
Me too.
Would you come
Me
back
too.
for a part two?
Happily.
See what the brass says about
Happily.
that. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
My
That was great fun.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Joe Ulam. This is Becoming Brokerage at Brown Harris Stevens, and we will see you next time.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business. And it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.